Joe Rogan needs to retire immediately before the casual MMA fan base becomes as dumb as he is. Now, I say this with the utmost respect for Joe Rogan. He is a legend of the game. He was there from the beginning, not getting paid, doing these pay-per-view events, and he did a pretty good job for the time because people didn't know jiu-jitsu, didn't know MMA, so he did a great job explaining what it was, how it worked, what it meant, what things were, and he did a great job for that time, but as the sport seemed to progress, he didn't progress with it. He would, collect facts here and there, but eventually he started to let himself go. Now, this all comes around to some recent Joe Rogan news. Obviously, he said some dumb things pretty much every other year, but a few things have come out now, and it kind of brought me to talk about some old things too that we need to address. But we'll go ahead and start the video on this tweet. Joe Rogan thinks Gable Steveson is already a top 5 heavyweight in the world. I sent Dana White a text message. I said everyone's fucked. That's how I think Joe Rogan talks. Now look, Gable Steveson, former Olympic wrestler, Olympic champion, good. Freak athlete, definitely going to translate to MMA well, but he's fought 2 cans in dirty boxing and MMA. You can say a guy has looked good, but to say that he's top 5 heavyweight in the world, I think that's pushing it. That's a very lukewarm not lukewarm, jeez. That's a very hot take. I was going to say that's a room temperature IQ take. Because we don't know how good he is. Anybody can look great against 2, schmucks. I could look decent. But we haven't seen Gable Steveson against the test of Tybura, the test of Shamil the Blub. We haven't seen him against, anybody, even in the UFC for that matter. So there's still a level of competition that he needs to achieve before we can start making these outrageous takes at such a low level that Rogan does. And this is not the first time Rogan's hyped up people. Recently I saw he was talking about the Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan rematch, the second one after the first one ended via DQ. And he said Aljamain Sterling dominated Peter Yan in that fight, which just isn't true at all. I believe that fight went to a split decision, and he just seems to not think or remember anything and then just blatantly make up lies and write them off as facts about the UFC because he's that hardcore. He's even gone out saying that, MMA should be on a basketball court and there should be one round, and if you end the round on bottom, you should start the round on bottom. It's idiotic takes, and he's been on this for years now, and I hear people casually try to talk to me about the UFC, and they bring up something Rogan said, and it's the dumbest thing I've heard. Now, this extends beyond just his commentary, because obviously he has a career outside of the UFC. He has the Joe Rogan experience, but they kind of bleed. More so, the UFC bleeds into the Rogan experience. So Rogan has these big podcasts, and then he does these little MMA segments within podcasts, and non-MMA watchers who are listening to Rogan might pick up on that and just think it as fact. We'll go ahead and move on to another fact here. I'll just let Rogan take it away.
The close fights that John had, they were really only close because John wasn't training. Didn't train at all for the Gustafsson fight. I mean, I talked to Greg Jackson, and he was like, I swear to God, he barely showed up. But he wins the fight by gutting it out in the final rounds when he's done relatively no strength and conditioning.
John Jones doesn't train, doesn't do strength and conditioning, and that's why he looks bad in his title fights. No, that just doesn't make sense. That's a terrible take by Rogan. That's him just bullshitting. The coach did not say that, and if they did, he's just glazing his own fighter. Jones trained. Jones trained so much that when USADA came to look for him to test his piss for steroids, he hid under the cage he was training in for 8 hours. To say an MMA champion, one of Jones's caliber, does not train is you just being an absolute fucking idiot. You're a schmuck. It's a terrible take by Rogan. And there's Gable Steveson right there to spread the narrative along with it, because Gable Steveson is under the tutelage of John Jones and wants him to be his life coach. Look at how great John Jones' personal life outside of the cage is. Not exactly a life coach, to be honest. But Rogan pushing this rhetoric, so a lot of MMA fans are going to think Jones just didn't train. And it's the dumbest thing ever. We don't need these type of people in the sport who try to spew this out as fact as if they know anything about the sport. It ruins credibility. It just makes it stupid. It's like the Wilt Chamberlain 100-point game. It just really wasn't documented. So why are we saying this as if it's the fact of facts? It kind of just puts a gimmick behind it all. It's just ridiculous. And that's his favoritism for fighters. He'll even talk about Khalil Roundtree fights as if Khalil just kind of didn't do it. As if the other guy... Or he'll talk about how Khalil just couldn't, win. And he lost. And he won't say anything about how his opponent beat the shit out of Khalil. You know what I mean? And he's had Khalil on probably 5 times, the Joe Rogan podcast. I don't know what it is, but he glazes just certain fighters. Sometimes he'll just give them leverage for no reason. And like the Islam Makhachev Topuria thing, we'll get to that. But another thing that we all know Rogan for
the monk training.
But here's the thing: if he's wearing a cup, especially if he's wearing a tie cup, a steel cup,
Yep.
which I also think should be illegal.
No.
I don't think you should have steel cups because steel cups act as a leverage point as well.
Okay.
You know, not only that, you could break your foot on it; it's an unnatural object. And then if you get someone in an armbar, steel cup,
Yep.
My parlay just hit, boys.
it's like it's
That's
it's
right,
An
yeah.
extra.
It ain't a Rogan clip. It ain't a Rogan commentary night without him mentioning steel cups and how they help for arm bars as well as break feet. Rogan, we're not in some outback under the shed, spot in Thailand where just these crazy fights are happening. Like, this is official MMA. This is the cream of the crop when it comes to MMA. It's the UFC. It's not new knowledge. It isn't something that actually happens. Nobody in the UFC has broken their foot on a cup, even if they are wearing steel cups. Because I'm pretty sure, like you said, it's not banned. It's not illegal. So he just regurgitates this is one of his dumb takes. This is one of his Roganisms. Like, get out of there. Or talking about, like, it's the steel cup helps with the arm bar. And you can break your foot on it. He never stops talking about it. Anytime a jiu-jitsu guy's on there, we saw Rampage talk about Joe Rogan's a jiu-jitsu guy, what he does to guys who train that. He'll talk about, Ryan Hall's inverted leg locks when he was against Taporia. Not leg locks, Ziminari roll. When he was going against Taporia, he kept saying, Illy's got to be careful. He's got to be careful. Taporia backed out, counter grappled, and even ground and pound TKO'd Ryan Hall every time throughout the entire fight, when he was going for these rolls. So it's just a really bad take from Rogan. Again, now this is 3 in a row. Like, I could do so many more, but this video would go on for hours and hours and hours. But I guess the most recent thing outside of, the Gable Steveson thing was Rogan getting tricked by an AI image. This is AI. This is not real. I know it looks very real. It's a horrible world we live in where this is a thing. But this is not real. And Rogan, upon seeing this on his podcast, which broadcasts to millions of people, #1 on Spotify for God knows how long, calls her a monster. She's taking photos with rappers and shit, putting it on Instagram. You know how they do it. They try to steal your soul. Hell has no fury like a woman scorned. This is the mother of your children. This lady's a monster. He's trying to get custody. I don't know if it's psychologically duped or not. If it is, then once she's not on your side, then it's just burn the house down. Crazy words from Rogan. Like, there's a lot of weight behind those words, regardless of whether he's kind of just shooting the shit about this or if he's being dead serious. Like, if this photo was real, yeah, I guess you could say that. But this photo isn't real. I'm sure the moment it circulated, all the comments on her were AI, this is fake, this isn't real. But Rogan does no time to look up context, not even in UFC fights. He won't even go to any pay-per-view events to commentate outside of America. You know what I mean? And he gets paid a lot. I think he gets paid, $50,000 per event? And then God knows how much money he makes off of sponsors, the Rogan experience and whatnot. But he doesn't do his research, so clearly he didn't find out that this image was AI. Could have just done a little bit of research before throwing the book at her of being a monster. And now he's indicted in the court case. Georgina has named him as somebody in her complaint, I guess maybe defamation or something, just because Rogan has such powerful, words in terms of social media, what people think about things. Because, like I said, there's that casual viewership that is just going to buy into anything he says. So Rogan says that, and Georgina probably has gotten so much hate, like so much shit. And I think she deserves partly of it because at this point in the case, I still believe in Ilia Toporia's innocence. But what Rogan did was just unjust. It wasn't about her behavior in the Topuria case. It was about a fake AI image that he just fell for. And now there's huge repercussions for her end. And now he's being potentially looked at in this court case. He might have to go attend it. So just really dumb from Rogan. He's a bad commentator. He's a bad comedian. He's a bad podcaster at this point. And he used to be good, which makes this suck. Like, he used to be knowledgeable of MMA when people didn't really know much, but he never really grew with the sport. He'll keep these old consensus takes. He'll talk about leg kicks. He'll talk about Benson Henderson. He'll just keep spewing the same Roganisms that we've heard time and time and again. And he just signed like a 5-year contract extension. Like, he said, when Dana's done, I'm done. And it doesn't seem like Dana's going to leave. So we're stuck with this bad, annoying commentary that I can't even mute on my own TV. I just want to hear the fight. Rogan needs to retire. That's really what the consensus of this video is. That's my thesis. Rogan needs to retire. He's just become old, just bewildered. He never really knows what's going on. I'm like stuttering on my own words just out of like pity. You know what I mean? Just the downfall of great. that now we can talk about how much of a legend he is. We're gonna go, yeah, but by the end of the career, he was like a rambling idiot. Like he didn't know anything. He didn't keep up with anything. He ruined the casual viewers' like takes on things. It's just insane. It really is. But yeah, hopefully Rogan steps down sooner than later, unless he just has this revolutionary 180, which I don't think he will. I think drugs, bad takes, anything anybody says on his podcast, he agrees with. So I'm just done with Joe Rogan. Honestly, I'm good to hang him up in the Hall of Fame of commentators. I'll still keep up with him, but like listening to anything he says as fact is a terrible idea by anyone in any facet for this part. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. See ya.